What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing another weapon breakdown for Battlefield 2042, this time covering the K30. In these weapon breakdowns, we're going to go through a bunch of stats that you guys need to know, such as rounds per minute, reload times, bullet velocity, damage over distance, bullets to kill over distance, and time to kill over distance as well. On top of those stats, I'll then go over the recoil pattern for the weapon, and then lastly, I'll go over 3 unique loadouts that I've crafted for specific playstyles for those of you guys who aren't 100% sure on which attachments to use. Before we get into it, if you guys do end up enjoying the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new to the channel, then definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications, as there's going to be plenty more content like this on the way in 2022. With that being said though, guys, let's get stuck right into my weapon breakdown for the K30. So the K30 is obviously classed as an SMG, and you unlock this bad boy at level 53. Now it has a magazine size of 20+1 in the chamber, and it fires at a rate of 1,099 rounds per minute, which is the second fastest in the entire game, only just behind the AC-42. Now for its reload times, it takes exactly 2 seconds for a tactical reload, which is when you manually reload it, or it has an empty reload time of 2.6 seconds, which is when it automatically reloads after running out of bullets. As for the velocity, it sends its ammunition down range at 420 meters per second, which is actually the second fastest out of the SMGs currently in the game, which is definitely a little bit unexpected considering it is such a close quarters focused weapon. Now getting into the more detailed stats for the K30, keep in mind that these values are all based off of body shots, so when it comes to the SMGs, headshots have a 2 times multiplier, and so any value that you see in these graphs are just doubled when you land them to the head rather than the torso or the limbs. The K30 deals 22 damage per bullet up to 9 meters, then between 10 and 29 meters it drops down to 18 damage per shot, from 30 to 39 meters it drops to 15 damage per shot, and then at 40 meters and beyond it drops down to 13 damage per shot, so it does have a pretty quick damage drop off at range. As for the bullets that it takes to kill over distance, and again keep in mind these are just body shot stats here, it takes 5 shots to kill up to 9 meters, then between 10 and 29 meters it takes 6 shots to kill, from 30 to 39 meters it takes 7 shots to kill, and then at 40 meters and beyond it'll take 8 shots to the body to kill an enemy. Lastly, moving on to the time to kill over distance, it kills in 218 milliseconds up to 9 meters, then 272 milliseconds between 10 and 29 meters, 327 milliseconds between 30 and 39 meters, and from 40 meters and beyond it will take 382 milliseconds to kill. Obviously, these stats do vary quite a bit once you account for headshots and miss shots like I mentioned, but assuming you hit every shot to the body at these ranges, then these stats are accurate according to that situation. Now, moving on, we have the recoil pattern for the K30, and as you can see, it does actually have a very vertical recoil pattern without a whole lot of horizontal recoil, at least visually anyway, but it does actually have quite a bit of random horizontal spray despite visually only recoiling upwards, so it is definitely a little bit hard to stay accurate with it at range, unless you are feathering the trigger. This is just the factory K30 that I'm showing here. I do have some videos on the channel covering some different attachment types and how they affect recoil and the overall weapon behavior though, so be sure to check those ones out as well. Now moving on, I normally create 3 loadouts for each weapon, but to be honest, with the K30 I think there are really only 2 that are worth using, so if you're not 100% sure on what attachments to use, then hopefully this can give you guys a good starting point, and obviously these can be slightly altered and adjusted to your own preferences, so these are by no means set in stone. Also keep in mind that you can obviously bring 3 attachments per slot in the plus system, so technically you can bring both of these loadouts along and change them on the fly. The first loadout that I wanted to cover is what I like to call the hipfire build, and this one is just really fun to use in any close quarters situations. Hipfire on SMGs is surprisingly really solid, and I think it actually gets underused in pretty much every Battlefield game, so definitely give this one a crack to see how well it can handle without ADSing. For the sight, I use the Fusion Holo simply because it is the one that I like the best. With this being a hipfire build, the sight is kind of redundant in a lot of situations, but it doesn't hurt to bring one along anyway, and for me, the Fusion Holo is my favourite. For the ammo, I use the drum mag rounds. Honestly, this weapon fires so fast that you pretty much have to use this ammo type or else you'll just run out of ammo in about 2 seconds, so this one is a no-brainer. For the underbarrel, I use the LS1 laser sight, which drastically improves your hipfire accuracy, and one thing to remember, at least for now until they possibly change it in the future, you do actually have to reactivate the laser sight by pressing down on the D-pad every time you spawn in. It is very annoying, but that is how it works currently. Lastly, for the barrel, I use the Type Type 4 heavy suppressor. When you're close enough to be hip firing, it is definitely handy to stay hidden as much as you possibly can, so this is the go-to for this build. Now moving on to the second loadout that I wanted to cover, this one is just the meta loadout, and exactly as it sounds, this is just the loadout that I think is the best overall for the weapon across a broad range of engagements. For the sight, I once again used the Fusion Hollow simply because that is my favourite for close quarters. For the ammo, I use the drum mag again for the same reasons as before. For the underbarrel, I use the BCG light grip, as this is pretty much the only available attachment that helps out with your accuracy when you're moving, and it is pretty rare that you're going to be using the K30 at a standstill, so this one is a no-brainer. Lastly, for the barrel, I use the tactical compensator, as this does just help rein in that horizontal recoil ever so slightly, which will obviously add even further to your accuracy. Like I said, this build is pretty much the all-around best build. The K30 doesn't actually have all that many attachment options compared to most other weapons, and so that's why I've only gone with 2 loadouts for this video. So that is pretty much it for the K30, guys. Personally, I do really enjoy using this one. It is really fun to use in a sort of aggressive type of playstyle, which is how I generally like to play anyway. So if you love to get in and get amongst the action, then this one is definitely worth using. Up next, I'm hoping to cover the SFAR for the assault rifle class, but other than that, let me know what weapons you guys want me to cover next, as I'm largely going to base them off what you guys want to see the most, so be sure to leave some recommendations down in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. If you guys want to support the content that I make here on YouTube, then consider becoming a channel member. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.